Okay, I just want to spend a few minutes and go through the Tropicsun Solution so that you have something you can do when you're absolutely bored to tears with the holiday. So let me screen share. Just bear with me. Okay, and let's put this up there. Okay, so a couple of things. The first thing, if we're using the newer version of Solver, which I'm not a fan of, as you know, first thing we notice is that, up here, Solver is not available to us because we have to convert it from an older file. So we will go to File, go to Info, and go to Convert. And then we'll save that. And that is completed successfully. And the way we know that is we can see Solver is now available to us. Okay, so again, Tropicsun. And what you'll be doing for your final deliverable is you'll be changing, as we discussed previously. It's not going to be Tropicsun, it's going to be Betty's Bats. It's not going to be groves that grow citrus, but it's going to be manufacturing plants that produce aluminum baseball bats. And it's not going to be distances from the groves to their processing plants, but it's going to be the distances from the manufacturing plants to their warehouses. And this is that legend, that array of numbers there. So again, if we start, remember that there are embedded formulas in almost everything that is a colored box here, not in this area because these are our variables in the olive drab color. But start with the solution box. So our solution box, if we come up here, it says the way that the solution is reached is using the sum product function. And the array, or the overlay, if you will, of the array, C7 through E9, which are these distances here, overlaid to C14 through E14, in other words, our variable boxes. Okay, makes sense. Now, we said we also have, in terms of constraints, some other things, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but we have bushels available. So in Tropicsun, we had to deal with all of the bushels. Can't leave them sitting on the truck somewhere, so the amount of bushels available must all be shipped somewhere. And then we said the different plants that process the citrus had different capacities. So this one had 200,000 bushel capacity, this one had 600,000, and so forth. So this is, and when we set these up as constraints, this is the stuff where it's less than or equal to. We can't exceed those numbers, but we can send less to each of these facilities. But again, what are we trying to do? The objective function here is to minimize. Minimize what? Minimize costs. And how do we do that? By minimizing, in this case, bushel miles. In the case of Betty's Bats, bat miles. All right, so let's pull down Solver. So I pull down Solver. Let me move this box out of the way here. And the first thing it says is the objective function. So let's pick that. And the objective function is we want to minimize. And what do we want to minimize? We want to, come on now, we want to minimize. There you go. Is that right? Should be E20? No, it's not. So we'll put it in manually. For some reason, my touchpad, it doesn't like, okay, E20, E20. Okay, so that's the objective or the outcome cell, and we want to minimize. Okay, then we have to pick our variables. We want to add a variable, and it says click and choose the variables. Well, that's going to be this array here. We hit OK, and we have our variables. Now we have the constraints, and we want to add a couple of constraints. So the first thing, and it doesn't matter which direction, so it says the left-hand side of the constraint. Well, let's start with this. This must equal, we said this was an equality, and the right-hand side is this, must equal that. And so we have our first constraint, our equality. Then we said we have a less than or equal to. So we're going to add a constraint. And the left-hand side, so to speak, of our formula says, look, these must be, and we already have selected, less than or equal to these. And we click OK, and we have our second constraint. Now what's left? Our non-negativity constraint. So we want to add a constraint, and it says basically that all of our variables, this array of variables, must be what? Greater than or equal to, and I'm just going to plug 0 in there, and we hit OK. And then the part of this solver that I find almost absurd is hitting this and watching those gears turn. In the old version, we would already have an answer. But in this newer version, it's processing. I guess it makes it look more, I don't know, more appropriate or something somehow. So it's sitting here and it's queued, and lo and behold, we have a solution. And the solution is simply this. We've processed all of the bushels, everything that was shipped. You know, we've dealt with all of that. We used all of the capacity at this facility. We used all of the capacity at this facility, and we used most of the capacity at this facility. And the way we did that is we sent, so again, we have the groves and the processing plants. So since this processing plant could handle 200,000 bushels, we sent 200,000 from here to this one, which left 75,000, and we sent that here for a total of 275. The other facilities, okay, well, 250,000 from here to this facility, and then again the 150,000 remaining to this facility, dealing with 400,000, and then with the same thing with the last one. So this is all that we're really doing. This is all we had to do for Tropicsun. And the correct answer, if we were to put commas in there, is we've got 24 million bushel miles. 24,000, 24 million. Bunch of zeros there. All right. So what are we doing for Betty's Bats? Well, again, Betty's Bats, we have manufacturing plants 1, 2, and 3, and warehouses 1, 2, and 3. You've got a slightly different array of numbers, but the process is exactly the same. We are going to actually overlay, and in a sense, if I didn't change these numbers, it would be exact, but this is why I was saying to you that it's remarkably identical to Tropicsun. So all you're going to be doing, and again, where did we get these numbers? These numbers come from our production sheet. How many bats in total had to be made? Well, that comes from our forecast. So put the pieces together, try and work through this, and send me an email if we need a private Zoom. I'm not going to do the solution for you, but I'll get you a little closer if you seem to be in the weeds. probably should be no reason if you followed my process with the first one, the spa or hot tubs. And the second one, was a little more complicated. And then this one was even a little bit more complicated. But this should do for you. Hopefully, this is a helpful mechanism. And we'll be chatting soon. I'm going to stop share. And we are done. Have a great evening, and we'll chat soon.